you must grow industry to stimulate net exports. If you only do manufacturing to satisfy local demand, that manufacturing actually usually have a damaging effect to a large extent to the economy. Because many times you realize the machinery you've imported to do what you're calling manufacturing may have costed you more than actually importing the finished product. In my master's in the University of Nairobi, I looked for data for Kenya for the last 40 years. And my topics was about primary production, manufacturing, and the GDP growth. So I had already concluded, like many of us here, manufacturing, it leads to economic growth. If I never did anything with data, that is what I could have written in my report. Now listen, I took data for the last 40 years for Kenya, tabulated all this data. This was the outcome. That the growth of manufacturing in Kenya for the last 40 years has led to decline in the GDP growth. Can you just imagine what I'm trying to say? It seems like, I'm sure you're asking yourself, what kind of paper is that? Let me repeat. The conclusion of the data was 1 unit growth in manufacturing leads to 8 unit decline in the GDP. How is that even possible? Because obviously we know manufacturing must always lead to economic growth. And I'm talking about their movements. The growth by 1 unit in manufacturing leads to a decline in 8 units in the GDP growth. That looks like an oxymoron. But now let's come back home. Na tulizane maswali hapa. In the last 40 years, has the economy of Kenya been growing or not? Don't fear, just raise up your hand. FCPA, yes, it has been growing. It's only few sessions we had a decline, like Corona time. Even over post-election violence, we had an increase, but it was marginal. Let me repeat, has the GDP in Kenya been growing for the last 40 years? Has it been growing, yes or no? It has been growing, that is the truth. Okay. Has the manufacturing as a composition of GDP been growing or declining? Now that is where the answer lies. So, have you seen what I mean? For the last 40 years, the economy has been growing. But for the last 40 years, the composition of manufacturing as a share of GDP has been declining. Remember what I talked about 17%, secondary production, is not just manufacturing. Manufacturing is part of it. If you remove manufacturing from the 17%, it is around 8%. Do you know, in the 60s, the composition of manufacturing as a share of GDP was higher than now? That is why. But these are the real reasons. What do we call manufacturing in Kenya? No. What do we call manufacturing? Kwanza wale wa suti.
In some cases, we refer to it as juakali.
Juakali, that's one. Now let's come to Kenya Association of Manufacturers. Is there anyone representing any company which is part of Kenya Association of Manufacturers here? Or anyone who knows about it? Just mention one company which is part of Kenya Association of Manufacturers. Mention one. Yes, my brother.
Bitcoin company.
Nyamazia hapo kwanza. Somebody to, I need the lady in green, please come. Tulisema hizi darasa. Wacha tujisomeshe hapa. Somebody to give us a pen. And guys, I didn't come here to motivate you. I came here so that we keep thinking about Kenya critically. So write Bidco. You wanted to say the second one? Say the second one. Very good. Any other? Kenya Association of Manufacturers. I want you to give me who are the members. Yes? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
I was mentioning KVM, Kenya Vehicle Manufacturing.
Very good. KVM, Kenya Vehicles Manufacturing. So we can put even this one point. Put aside. It is not part of CAM. Yes, sir. Yeah, please have a kwanza. And I want us to be critical because manufacturing is what will help Kenya. But let's look at what do we actually call manufacturing. And if you collect the data I took is in public domain. Go take it, collect it. You see, for the last 40 years, has the growth, because the decline of manufacturing as a factor of GDP, if it's declining, then the GDP should be declining. But now you see, they are inverse. That we agree the economy has been growing, but we also agree even with figures that the composition of manufacturing as a share of GDP has been declining. Number one, we talked about Bidco. Bidco and all edible oils companies, critically let's think, are they manufacturers? Think. Go back to the formula we talked about. GDP is equals to consumption plus investments plus government plus X minus M. So in that formula, Bidco, they do investment because they have machinery. But they also stimulate our consumption. We consume edible oils. But now go to X minus M. If you define let me not use a specific name. If you define edible oils companies in Kenya, are they manufacturing companies or are they importers? That is the point. Because if we continue deriding ourselves and lying to ourselves, we will continue doing the same thing, but expecting different results, which we are not going to get. We will have edible oils companies become manufacturing companies that help our economy if two things happen. They source or the intermediate, they source the intermediate product here. Intermediate means to make edible oils, whatever you need to make it, if it's not coming from Kenya, you are an importer. If 80% of a packet of edible oil when you buy it, if 80% of the cost you are paying is an import, then you are harming the economy more than you are stimulating it. That's one. But number two, they'll become truly manufacturing companies when they start manufacturing for other markets, not just for Kenya. Why is that important? So that the machinery they have imported to do whatever thing they are doing with edible oils, their value becomes less than the production you are making. So that you cover up for your net import. You cover up for your net import by exporting. So I wish they were importing these intermediate goods and products, manufacture edible oils, then sell them at a premium in the outside market. But if you only produce for the local market and the bigger component is an import, that is the reason why there is no manufacturing that is happening there. The second one here, my sister wrote, is vehicle manufacturing companies. In the CAM meetings, these companies sit in front. Tell me one vehicle manufacturing company in Kenya. The ones you mentioned are not. KVM is not. Isuzu is not. Now look at it this way. When you go to Isuzu, I can use Isuzu because it's a public company. Government has a stake in it. If you go to Isuzu yard today, is it manufacturing that is happening there or is it assembly?
Assembling.
Now, the value of assembly versus the value of what you imported, what is higher? The value you are adding to this part and this is only assembling them. Between that value of assembly and the value you accrued by these imports, which value is higher? It is import. So is that an import company or is it a manufacturing company? You may see it. I think those two examples suffices. That, as we talk about manufacturing in Kenya, let's now stop wearing suits and speaking big worded English. Let us go to where the rubber meets the road and confront the problem there and then. If you go to a country like Morocco, Morocco is now overtaking South Africa as an auto economy in Africa. But they are doing real manufacturing. They are not just doing assembly. So those real manufacturing are important because you must be mindful when you are a Mabati company and you are importing iron ore. So what are you doing? Just compressing Mabati and selling. So we must, as a country, look at, if you are talking about manufacturing, it is actually real, but it also target outside market so that you pay for your net imports. You pay for your net imports by also exporting. Hey, it's so much jargon today, lakini mtanisamehe. I'll highlight a few points as I go to the close. How do we enhance productivity as a country? But before that, so that this makes sense, those formulas I made you right. I talked about US. US grew by what? Starting by manufacturing. Manufacturing for what? Exports. UK had done exactly the same before. How did South Korea grow? South Korea came up with a model called export-led growth economy. The economy of South Korea grew on a model which is actually now studied, called export growth economic model. How did they conceptualize it? General Park was the president of South Korea from around 1961. He was actually a general, meaning you know how he took the power. But he was a good man. He minded about his country more than he minded about how much money he would make. And he actually was able to check where the problem of South Korea was and how it could be solved. And I'm using South Korea because the size of Kenya is exactly the size of South Korea in terms of population. We are in our 50 millions, both of us. But we were the same in terms of the economic GDP per capita. In the 1960s, we were the same. But now, currently, a South Korean is 12 times you. So if you earn 100,000, a South Korean income is times 12 of what you have. Is it an oil-producing company? No. Do they have rare earth minerals? Not more than Kenya. So what is this that they did? And how can Kenya do something? Export growth economic model, where the economy needed to grow not by producing for consumption, but producing for exports. General Park formed a committee which was meeting monthly to evaluate how the exports model or the exports figures are running in South Korea.